Hey everyone, today I'm making chili. It's miserable and raining outside, so I thought it would be a good meal. It'll also use up a whole lot of our pantry items and some of the fresh items we have in the fridge that have come from our CSA lately. I have a variety of canned items, including some chicken broth, some crushed tomatoes, and some beans. I canned both black beans and kidney beans in my pressure canner this year. I'll also be using up some of our onions, peppers, mushrooms, carrots, celery, and some garlic. We still have garlic that we harvested from our garden in the fall, which is fantastic. It's kept really well this year. And then of course a wide variety of spices. I'll show you that when we get to it. Let's get to chopping. Okay, we've got our vegetables out of the fridge here. So we've got some onions. I have a bag of peppers that I just got at Costco, and I have a whole pepper that I got from our CSA. They purchased stuff from a local greenhouse grower here in Nova Scotia in the winter to kind of give us more variety, so we're not having squash and rutabaga for months on end, and I really appreciate that. They also got some nice little mushrooms from another local grower, which must be growing inside since it's pretty early here in the season. Our farm market just down the road just opened, so I got some celery from them, and I have carrots once again from our CSA. So a good variety of fresh and preserved stuff going into this one. These were local onions. I was also very surprised to find at Costco. I got a big 10-pound bag, which may seem excessive to some, but we certainly use those up just fine in this house. So I'm going to say those 4 small ones are worth 1 pepper, and I'm just going to finish off this bag. I'll save that other pepper for something else, because it still looks really nice and fresh and it can go back in the fridge. So this is about 1 pint-sized box of mushrooms. We're just going to roughly chop them. And we're going to save that pint-sized box for berries this summer. Sometimes in the winter I'll have bags of this type of items frozen and ready to go and just dump into the chili or fajitas, tacos, but we're now into spring and those items are long gone. This year hopefully I'll have a lot better pepper harvest. I'm starting some varieties that should do better in our zone. So instead of California Wonder bell peppers, I've started some that are called King of the North and have a lot shorter day to harvest. So I really hope to be successful with those. Of course, got some of the early jalapenos started, some of our favorites, and started some hot peppers this year too. I'm really excited to try some cayennes. They've got some good germination going in the grow room at the moment. And I also started something called candlelight hot pepper. So maybe we'll get some hot sauce out of that. neither of us are like really big fans of heat, but we do, enjoy the seasoning of a hot pepper. Just not excessive amounts. Neither of us is going to eat them raw, that's for sure. We did end up fermenting some jalapeno hot sauce this year, and I'll add some of that to our chili today since we're out of any store-bought hot sauce. But I'm really, really excited to try to dry some cayennes and make some of my own pepper seasonings this year. You can leave these mushrooms as big or small as you want. I just want to make sure that they're going to fit on a spoon when I go to eat it. And they'll of course wilt and break down a bit as the chili simmers. Alright, we've got our onions, our peppers, our mushrooms, some carrots and some celery. So let's do the celery first. Just gonna do one rib. I am not a huge fan of celery. I like it for flavoring, but I don't like the texture. And this is something that I've got started to grow in the garden again this year, and I do intend to preserve a lot more of it. Last year, I just really wasn't prepared. I got a small harvest of celery, and I certainly used it fresh in the summer for flavorings. But I did not preserve any. So this year, hopefully I can get some in those freezer packs for chili veggies, and maybe dry some of the tops also. Started a different variety of celery this year too. Last year I tried Tango, and it's about 110 days to maturity. So I had some really small celery, certainly no, big large bunches, just kind of pull off a stalk kind of in the garden. Hopefully this year I can harvest some larger celery. The seeds that I purchased from a local seed grower called Cochrane Family Farms, I believe it was like a 90-day to maturity, so it's much more within my growing zone, as I've learned here at this property. Even though we're only about 15 to 20 minutes away from where we lived previously, the last frost date is about 15 days later, and it really reduces our growing season. So we have about 95 days anticipated frost-free, and we'll see. Hopefully we don't have any surprise late frost this year. Last year I don't think I got everything planted in the garden until mid-June, so very late compared to, where I would have traditionally planted the May 24th long weekend. Alright, so that's all our vegetables. We've just got them chopped up in a bowl. I'm going to set them aside here until we're ready for the next steps. I like to prepare as many things as possible for the chili, because when it starts to come together, I find it kind of comes together quite quickly. And if I'm not ready, I just feel quite rushed, and then things don't get done how they should. So our next step, I'm going to mix together my spices and go find them all, and probably take a little break because I'm out of breath, which is telling me it's time to sit down for a bit. So sit down and then gather those spices from the pantry. Okay, small break and back to it, I guess. All right, so for our spice mix, what we use, this is Chris's recipe, by the way. One of the only ones that he's actually written down for me. I am not a really good from scratch cook. That's much more his thing, so. This has been a recipe of his that I've been able to recreate quite easily, and even though it's a little bit different each time based on what vegetables we have in the house, it turns out pretty good. So we're doing 3 tablespoons of chili powder. One tablespoon of paprika. One tablespoon of ground cumin. teaspoons of oregano. And 1 teaspoon of ground mustard. Okay, so that is our spice mix. Alright, next step is to fry our meat. Today we're going to use ground pork. We've used ground venison, ground beef, any kind of ground meat really. For chili is just fine. I'm just going to preheat my pan. I have an enameled cast iron here with some olive oil in it, and we'll get our ground going. It's still kind of frozen because I didn't plan for dinner very well today, but that's fine. We're just going to brown it so it'll thaw as we go. This ground pork is also from our CSA. We choose to get a vegetable, a fruit, and a meat share from our CSA, which is everything they have except for eggs, since we have our own laying hens. We actually started with our CSA during the pandemic just by getting a meat share, and that was a summer share that we got through till December, and we liked it so much, and we saw on their weekly updates what they were getting in the vegetable boxes, so we decided to do that. And at that time, vegetable and fruit was together, so we got everything that year also. We thought that maybe we didn't really need the fruit because a lot of the time in the winter you're getting a lot of apples and maybe some more things that we weren't really getting through. But as you know, we've gone back to fruit, vegetable, and meat this year because we found that we were really missing the seasonal fruit like the cherries and the peaches and the pears and the apples. So I'm excited. A month or so and we should have some strawberries. But with our meat share, we do certainly get a lot of ground meat and whole chickens. So you do have to kind of get creative in the kitchen so you're not just eating the same thing all the time. We do tend to fall back on some easy things or favorites, but I feel like most people do that. Okay, that beef's all brown, so we're just gonna actually remove it from the pot and set it aside. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. There's still a little bit left in there. Just a little bit more olive oil, and we're going to add our veggies and cook them until the onions are translucent. So this is very much a Canadian version of chili, I guess. There's a lot of vegetables in it, and it's pretty normal around here. The type of vegetables will change, just depending on the likes and preferences of those people. Kind of proud of myself. I realized I forgot something. So I also need 3 cloves of garlic. So just have a garlic press here. Got the cheap one from the dollar store. Do not recommend. So his vegetables are cooking down, but we've got some pretty big carrots. I probably could have chopped those a bit more. But this is just for Chris and I, and we're not too picky, so that's fine. Just let it cook down a little bit longer. Alright, that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and add our spice mix that we made and let that kind of mix it all together and let the spices heat and get really fragrant and just delicious. So I'll let that go for about 2 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to start going ahead and getting some of my jars opened. So you have some crushed tomatoes. And some chicken broth. Usually I would use beef broth, but I don't have any. And I've made this a few times with the chicken broth and it's turned out just as good. So I'm not going to go buy a different broth at the store just to let the chicken broth that I have sit on the shelf. Save yourself some dollars. Alright, so that looks good and combined. I'm going to go ahead and add our meat back. So this is 1 liter of crushed tomatoes. And these are home canned crushed tomatoes, so they're a bit chunky. We've got 500 milliliters of black beans. So if I was using stored black beans from Costco or whatever, I would have drained these. But you can see these have become kind of like paste-like. There's nothing to drain off them. One 500 milliliter jar of kidney beans. So you can see this is a very hearty chili. Lots of vegetables, lots of beans, ground pork. So just gonna move you aside here. We're gonna get our last few ingredients. I need a cinnamon stick, a bay leaf, 2 tablespoons of molasses. And this is where my influence definitely comes in. I like a little bit of sweet with my tomato products just to kind of cut down on that acidity. What else are we missing? Usually I would go ahead and add a tablespoon of tomato paste, but I don't have any. I didn't can any this year and I'm fresh out from the store. I've made this a few times without it and it's turned out just fine. I just kind of let it simmer a little bit longer to thicken. Alright, I'm just going to grab our hot sauce from the fridge. So what we did is we fermented some jalapenos and then strained it out into a hot sauce. We just got it in a little squeeze bottle now. Just gonna go ahead and add about 2/3 of a tablespoon. Stuff's kind of potent. All right, and then we're just gonna top it up with the chicken stock. And again, that was 1 liter of chicken stock or chicken broth. Alrighty, so we're gonna bring this up to a boil with the lid on, and then we're just gonna allow it to simmer. We want to simmer anywhere from about an hour to 3 to 4 hours. The longer you leave it on the stove, the better, and the longer it sits in the fridge, better. Of course, food safety, don't leave it in the fridge too long. And maybe the real reason we're having chili tonight. We have some nice, fresh, baked sourdough bread to go along with it. This is bread Chris prepared yesterday, and I baked this morning while he was at work. The chili was much enjoyed for dinner, and we had lots of leftovers for lunches, and we even stored some in the freezer. Chili stores surprisingly well in the freezer and can be reheated on the stove in a pot, or if you have a microwave. I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Thanks for watching.